Super excited to have you on. So how did you get started in like the online business world? And
Yeah, so yeah. So it's kind of random. I went to the kind of traditional route of like went to school, um, university, finished university originally. Kind of didn't know what I wanted to do. Finished my degree in political science, and everything was kind of up in the air. I worked for a law firm for about a year, kind of testing that out. Didn't really, wasn't a good fit. Um, Went back to school, did my master's, and then kind of came out of that again. Still not really sure what to do. And then I ended up working for a nonprofit for a little over 2 years. Ended up running their business operations, and which mainly consisted of like, you know, it was a local nonprofit, so a lot of like community building, working with the town, working with the municipality, a lot of funding and stuff like that. So going out getting funding, whether it's on like a local or provincial level, and I really enjoyed it. It was really kind of like fulfilling work, and I really loved kind of the business side of things with it, especially with like going out and trying to kind of get as much funding as possible. So I love that part of it, but just wasn't a good fit. And then the amount of like red tape behind working with municipalities and towns and stuff like that was just, it was too much for me. Like it was, you're just constrained by so many things. And so anyways, I um kind of got hooked in. I've known John for a little while, prior to that, and so got hooked into him, working with him, and doing some online stuff with him, and kind of like he opened me up to this world of um you know essentially, like, for lack of a better term, online business, and jumped into that kind of full steam. And prior to that, it's not that I didn't have an interest in it. I always had an interest in my kind of niches, the operations management side of things, and online business is gives you just like a ton of opportunity within that, because there's almost like no like there are constraints, but like there's almost no constraints. It's this like, you know depending on what you're doing online, it's this wild world of like you can kind of really just do anything or be anyone, and sell anything, or like the possibilities are endless. So once I jumped into it, I just like, I don't know, like every day I just like find out something new, as I'm sure you do too, and you're just like, oh, that's crazy, like why not do that? And so
and how did you make that jump from working at nonprofit to going online?
yeah. So again, like really random. Like it was more of a, when I shifted over, it was more of, I was interested more in the kind of like operations, business management side of things. Um, and then, slowly started kind of delving into that online world. And so, uh, originally kind of like, John always has a ton of projects going on. So I always just kind of helped out, not helped out, but kind of like jumped from project to project with him, kind of just like jumping in, managing, building up operations, and then like moving on to another one, like building up. So anyways, just kind of like skipped, and then jumping into content refined, for the last kind of 2 years or so. Again, it was one of those ones where it's like jump in, build up, manage operations, but this one has kind of been like build up, all right, let's keep building, all right, let's keep building, let's keep building. So I've just like kind of been growing. um yeah, so it's hard to like, it's hard to say like how to, it was kind of, I feel like every job I've ever had has been like, you meet someone, or it's like a friend of a friend, or you jump into it not really thinking one thing, and then is completely the opposite. And I think that's what this was, where I thought it was one thing, and it is a part of it is what I wanted, and another part of it is like opened this like 1,000 other doors into the online space. That's, yeah, I mean, and it's been amazing. I don't, now that I'm in it, I don't think I'll ever see myself getting completely out of it, because there's so many, like, there's so much opportunity in it, and there's so many more doors to open. Like, you open 1,000 doors, and there's like, oh, there's another 10,000 over here. Like, what? Let's see what's behind those.
So you're never going back to the law office then?
No, no, no. The law office. It was something I. So I think like early on, I really wanted to jump into law. I think when I was like really young, I kind of wanted to do it because I kind of like, I liked that. I don't know. I feel like I watched a lot of like crime shows. It's just like I liked that aspect of it. But I liked, and I still do like this part of it. But I like the kind of like solving puzzles piece of it, right? Where it's like, here's something, it's very blurred. Let's figure out what the end outcome is and who's right and who's wrong. And so like I think that was really the biggest piece of it. But then when working at the law office, I mainly did like, assistant stuff, clerk stuff, a lot of researching for them, going to cases with them and stuff. Essentially just kind of like helping out wherever I could, while not, officially being a lawyer. And it was great. Like I learned a lot of stuff and it was cool, but I also learned that it's insanely boring. Like I just didn't want to do that for like and it's not even like I kind of found out that like the process of like, once you get into it, the first kind of like quarter of your career or longer is just like the most tedious, boring work. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that. Anyways, I just kind of like, I made a sharp left turn and got out of there. But yeah, I think, I don't know, a piece of me still kind of like, I still like that kind of like solving stuff, getting it, but now it's just in a different field.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's funny you talking about like, now that you've kind of gone into online business, you don't think you'll really go back to a regular setting. There are so many times when I think like, well, not so many times, but I would say probably like once or twice a month when I'll think like, man, I think this would be so much easier if I was in an office. And then every other day of the month, I'm like, no, that's the stupidest thing. Like, why would I ever want to do that? Like, I can totally do whatever I want all day long.
Yeah. Oh, man, if you told me, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, that I would be working from home, and not because of a pandemic, but like, even before COVID, it was, mainly working from home, or remotely. But if you told me like, 100% home office, I'd be like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no way, like I could never do that. Even when I kind of started working remotely, it was, and I think everyone struggles with this a bit when it's like first time working remotely, it's like you're at your house or you're somewhere else, it's hard to be productive. But I feel like once you get like over a hump, it's like quitting smoking, you know what I mean? Or like breaking a habit where like you get over the, whatever it is, like the 30 days or something. Once you get over it, then it's like, it's not only, I wouldn't say it becomes easier, but then it becomes like more productive. Like I find working from home, I can get way more work done in a shorter period of time compared to in the office. Plus, so like not only is your time more productive, but then you have you become, you don't think of it as like a 8-hour 9 to 5 whatever. You just think of it as like, I'm just working, I'm going to work until this gets done. Maybe I'll take a break, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll go to the gym, maybe I'll go for a walk, whatever. And then I was like, I'll just like work again later at night or in the morning or whenever. You don't think of it as like this set period of time. And I think more people now, because of COVID and where everyone's at, are starting to think like that. But I think the shift is happening. But when you talk to people who have been in an office for their whole lives, they kind of like, they don't get that. Like the working from home stigma is like, oh, you just, sit on your ass all day. Like, must be nice working from home. It's like, I don't think you get it.
Right. Yeah. I would say that transition from like working in an office to working full time from home was a little bit difficult for me. I had trouble motivating myself at first. Did you go through that?
Yeah. Oh man, a lot. Like, I'd say
I was horrible about
first,
it.
like almost year was like tough, but like obviously it got easier. But yeah, it's that like, you need some sort of self-discipline, right? And I think for me, like this call it self-discipline or discipline, was always like, I always had some sort of incentive tied to like my like my work was always tied to some sort of incentive with work. So like whether it be sales or like, I don't know, get this project done or like, doing things within work. And so it's like, if I didn't get it done, then it's like, I'm not saying I'd get fired, but like, wouldn't be doing a good job. And so that incentive was always there. But I think like, yeah, there's definitely like some self-discipline, and I think it's the type of work you do. So like, to give you an example, like, so when I worked at the law office, it was always 9 to 5, even if there wasn't 8 hours of work to do, it was always 9 to 5. And sometimes you'd sit there like 3 p.m. and you're just like, well, I got nothing else to do, but it's like, you got to stay here till 5. And so I think that like that mentality of like, it has to be 9 to 5, which I think a lot of jobs are still structured that way, is kind of bad because it doesn't make sense. Like, well, if I've done my day's work in 6 hours, like, why do I have to sit here? And so I think that kind of shift of like when you're working from home, it doesn't have to be 9 to 5 or whatever. It's just like, just get your work done. And so I kind of like shifting the mentality of like, all right, well, I just need to like sit down today and just get what I need to get done today. Like what's on my like to-do list, and like to-do lists for me, I don't know about you, but like I feel like I have to have one at the start of every day, because then I can kind of like, it's that, I think it's a mental thing, but it's also like you got to like seeing a list get done and checked off makes you kind of feel a bit of a, accomplishment for the day. And then you also know what you're doing. And when you have 1,000 things on your list, it's easy to get sidetracked or lose focus. So yeah, but no, that first, I would say like almost year was tough. But then I feel like once you get over the hump, then it's like, it not only becomes easier, but it gets like way better. You're like, why wasn't I doing this before?
Yeah.
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 Like,
Yeah. And it's like, man, I don't think I could ever go back now. Like back to an office. I'm too spoiled.
yeah, no, yeah. So I don't know. I could probably go back to an office, but I don't think I could go back to an office 5 days a week. And if I did, it would need to be, maybe this sounds, maybe we're both a little spoiled. Maybe this sounds like a little too like uppity of me, but like, I feel like I need to make my own hours. Cause like, if I come in at 8, like, do I have to stay till 4? Like, why? What if one day I stay till 6 or work late? You know what I mean? So it's, I think getting over that mentality of like set hours, or like, doing a certain amount of work within a certain amount of hours, like doesn't make sense. It's just like, just do your work. If you're achieving the goals that you want to be achieving within your business, your company, whatever, then like, that's it. Like, don't count your hours, count where your company's success is.
Mm. Other than keeping a to-do list, do you have any other like little tricks you use with yourself to make sure that you're still productive?
Yeah. So to-do lists, and then, I don't do it all the time, but lately I've been kind of like in the last 6 months, I've been doing like, kind of like little sprints for when I'm like working on stuff. So I'll just like set a timer for like, whatever amount of time I think I need to get something done in, whether it's like 15 minutes or whether it's an hour. I'll just set a timer, and then I'll just have that timer sitting on my phone. And then I'll just like zone out, do the work, no checking emails, no responding to messages, like nothing for that, whatever that time period is, and just get it done. And then after that time period, if it's like 15 minutes, then I'll just do like something else. But if it's like an hour, then I'll be like, all right, cool, 2-minute break, go grab a coffee, glass of water, whatever, and then like do the next thing. And then I find you get these, like, if you have these little sprints in, throughout the day, you can get a lot more stuff done. Because I can't tell it, and I'm sure you've done the same thing, but like, I can't tell you how many times I have 10 things to do in a day, and then start doing it, and then I get an email, and then I respond to the email, and I get another one, and then like 3 o'clock rolls around, and I look at my tabs, and I see the one tab. I was like, oh, I started that at 9 and I didn't do anything. Like, what? Why is that tab still there? So that, and then also great. This, maybe they'll pay me some money if I plug this, but Rescue Time is a great tool to use. It's just like a little extension you can download on your browser, and it basically just tracks how much time you work. But what it does is it tracks like the efficiency and productivity of your time. So if you're just like, if you're just staring at your screen, not doing anything, and then it's not productive. Or if you kind of like step away from your computer for 5 minutes, then it's like that 5 minutes is counted as you're not working. And so it's like how productive your time is. And so sometimes you'll have a day where it's 8 hours of like highly productive time, and it's like, yeah, I got a lot of stuff done that day. And then sometimes it's like 8 hours, or like you worked 8 hours, but then you look at your time and it's like, oh no, you actually only worked like 6 hours because you were unproductive for 2 hours out of that entire day. So that's a really great tool that I like to use, but it's also a little frustrating because then you really know how productive you are.
Yeah, and for someone who's not productive, that could be a curse.
Yes.
That's cool. I just pulled that up.
Yeah, it's great. Highly recommend it, and it's free too. They have like a paid version, but the free version gets the job done.
Sweet. Definitely gonna look into that. So talking about your time, what do you spend most of your time on nowadays? Because you're pulled into a few different projects.
Yeah. So kind of always jumping into little things here and there with with Jon and a couple others, but bulk of my time right now is spent on Content Refined. especially in the last, I mean, even over the summer. Summers are usually a bit slower, but the summer we're actually a lot busier than we expected. But since the end of the summer, like September, October, and now going into November, almost halfway there, majority of my time is spent on Content Refined. A lot of client management stuff, sales is a big part of it, and then not only kind of the front facing stuff of Content Refined, but also kind of the back end operations management stuff, kind of looking to optimize efficiency wherever we can, productivity, cut costs, expenses, things like that. So just trying to make sure we're running at kind of like optimal capacity and as efficiently as possible.
Nice. Yeah, John's been telling me how you guys have been kicking tail, especially the past few months. Like, just dang. Some now I haven't heard any numbers, but I've heard a lot that like your net profit margins is sweet. Like you've got tons of orders coming in. I've seen a few times where someone will say like, "Oh, we got a X figure order in." Like, oh snap! Like that's not small money, baby. That's sweet right there.
Yeah.
So who would you go ahead?
I was just gonna say we've been trying to kind of push more towards the like kind of like larger bulk orders, just because we found a lot of clients need that. Need that, and then B, from a kind of business perspective from our end, it works out because we can kind of get these bulk orders done in bigger batches. And anyways, it's no, but it's been good. Yeah, the last few months have definitely been great for Content Refined.
Yeah, so talk about those bulk orders. What clients do you feel like you've really been hitting the nail on the head with? Because John told me your net profit margin, like for anyone who isn't listening. So like the absolute amount of money you end up with after all your revenue and all your expenses, like all the revenue and all the expenses come out. And I know John told me like your net profit margin is sweet. So who do you feel like you've obviously hit the nail on the head in solving a need for somebody. So who is that somebody, and how have you done that?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mix. I think a few years ago it used to just be the kind of portfolio owners. Hey, I have X amount of sites. I need to get content on them. Those are mainly affiliate sites, product review sites, things like that. Those I think used to be the bulk of the customers, and it's still a large portion of them. But now what we're seeing is a lot of kind of like SaaS businesses, any type of really like online store that has some, or like a store that has an online presence, let's say. Still those kind of affiliate sites, portfolio owners. That's kind of the blend of what's coming in, but it's essentially anyone who needs content on their site that doesn't have time or the resources to do it themselves. Because I mean, anyone can get, if you have a website, whether it's like a business or it's just like a, some sort of affiliate site, anyone can put together content, right? Like if you're capable of speaking English and writing, you can put together content. Obviously the SEO optimization is a piece, like that's kind of where we come in, and then also being able to provide those resources and kind of like outsourcing it to us. The majority of clients that come to us are either need help with the SEO portion of it, and or kind of just like they understand what they want to get on their site, but they just don't have time for it, or they don't have their own team to be able to do it, and so they send it to us. And like I said, like anyone can get content up, but sometimes it's just like who has time to write 10 articles a month or 20 articles a month, or what whatever that number is. So that's the majority of our clients are like those affiliate sites, portfolio owners, and then SaaS businesses, online stores, things like that. Basically anyone who wants to get content on their site to help with their organic traffic.
So you talk about helping with organic traffic. What percentage of your content is SEO focused versus like product descriptions? Or you mentioned like for SaaS business, like what are SaaS businesses buying, for instance?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So for like affiliates, like most affiliate sites, is mainly like product reviews, things like that. If we're dealing with someone who has like an online store or like a product, like specific product that they're selling or manufacturing, a lot of the time it's like the content is based around what their product is, or the features of their product, or like the niche within their product. So to give you an example, like let's say you sold an iPhone or a phone, like a Android phone, and so like you wanted to get more organic traffic to it, so maybe you write articles, or you have a blog around what type of phone do you need, like what features are important in a phone, things like that. So that can be really broad. Like you can kind of get really the topics categories within that can go into different avenues. And then for like, let's say SaaS businesses, it's, let's say you have like an email outreach tool or something like that you run, and you want to get some blog content on your site. It could be like, what's the most optimal way to do your email outreach? What customers you want to target, things like that. So it's like content around their niche essentially, but it's not, with affiliate sites, it's you're reviewing other products from whatever affiliates you work with. With those other businesses, it's the call to action will always end up being back to them, or whatever kind of online software or product that they're selling.
Gotcha. And the majority of content you produce is with the intent of getting search engine traffic?
Yeah, I think that's always our end goal. Obviously, there's a few other things in there, but that's always the end goal, yeah.
Gotcha. Nice. Cool. And in regards to like SEO traffic and producing a bunch of articles, so what have your clients seen success with in the past? Like as far as word count, as far as, do you guys do keyword research as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So can you give us like just give me some ideas on what you guys are doing that if you guys have clients coming back and doing bulk orders, someone's obviously happy. Like people don't just drop a lot of money on something like that unless they're pretty confident it's going to work,
right.
So what have your clients seen success with, and what's kind of been the big win for them?
Yeah, so with SEO, obviously there's a ton of, and I'll probably get criticized for this, but like there's a ton of things that fall into like what's important for SEO, especially on page SEO, which is what we focus on, and your content. And that can be like, like what keyword are you targeting? What's the difficulty of that keyword? How much volume is going into it? What's the CPC of it? What kind of subheadings are you using? How optimized is your web page and like the design and UX of it and all that? So there's like, what links are you linking to? What kind of categories do you have labeled on your, like there's hundreds of things. And obviously the kind of like, as time goes on, Google, who is, the ultimate search engine, changes its algorithm a lot, and like will rank certain things differently, and people are always trying to stay up with it. So it's obviously become more difficult compared to, when you like 10 years ago, to rank for content. So there's a handful, more than 2 handfuls, 10 handfuls of things that go into SEO. But what and I always try and tell this to my clients or whoever I work with, or whether I'm just giving advice to someone who doesn't have an SEO background, is coming into it fresh. What I always find is most important is just get content on your site. Like if you want to increase your organic traffic, just get content on your site. And obviously, like, there's a bunch of things within there that we're going to help with in terms of optimizing that content, but just get content on your site. It's kind of, so like, I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but if you can think of a better one, feel free to jump in. But if
okay, I'll tell you if it's bad.
Okay, good. If you want to go skiing, just go ski. And then like, yeah, you might have, bunch of people skiing by you really fast and doing a much better job, and like, getting snow in your face, and like maybe you fall going down the hill a few times, but just like ski down the hill and then get back on the chairlift, go up and ski down it again. Just get content, you know what I mean? Like you could sit in your house and watch 20 YouTube videos and read a bunch of books and pay an instructor and learn all the advanced techniques of skiing, and then get up on the hill and you still fall and not go as fast as everyone, because it doesn't matter. Just get content on your site. So just ski, just get content on your site. Obviously there's a bunch of things that you can optimize from there, which we help with. But some people get kind of stuck into these like technicalities of like, well, what about this? We need to do this and this and this and this. And it's, you're right. But at some, like, depending on where you are with your website and your content, you just got to like dive in and just get the content on your site and then worry about that stuff later down the
Just gotta
road.
friggin' do
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And that varies, right? Like, so that's not always true for everyone. If someone has a high authority site with already a bunch of, really good content on it and is ranking for 100 thousands of keywords, whatever it is, obviously for them, then it's like, okay, great, let's get fresh content on your site. But then, maybe there's things we can look at to optimize either the current content or to make sure that the new content we're getting up is just as optimized as your current content.
Hmm. Yeah, and this is something I say, like using the skiing analogy, which was great. Like even if you're skiing and falling down, which would be
Yeah.
me, like everyone's passing you, it's still
Yeah.
me. Someone like skis over your face, like that's still me. Um, but even if you're out skiing, then you're still improving more than everyone who's just sitting and watching Netflix. So like,
Exactly.
yeah, say you do have like problems with your online business, with like site design, with content, whatever. Like, just freaking do it and learn as you go, and you're going to be improving more than everyone who's just sitting down and watching.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. That's so true. And if even if you and this goes for like not just SEO, but like hundreds of things in life. But like you can all if you put something off, the more you put something off, the more it's just like not going to get done, which sounds obvious, but like if like so for SEO, 10 years ago SEO, 15 years ago whatever, would have been a lot easier. It was a lot easier, right? Like you didn't have to do as much research. You didn't have to optimize as much. There, you could rank by just doing kind of the basics. Now it's a lot more advanced. Google's updated a lot of stuff. You got to kind of put in more effort. And so you could think of it as like, oh well, I didn't get in before. Like, why get in now? But it's like if you say that, then like, what about 5 years from now? What about tomorrow? What about a week from now? Like, know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you can say that about anything, but at some point you just got to like start it and
Yeah.
do it. And we're like it's always good to get in no matter what, right? If you didn't invest in
Yeah.
Apple when it was in a garage, like should you invest in it now? It's like, oh, I don't know, maybe. But like if it's something that's going to continue, and SEO is still something that I would say is still pretty like fresh and new. Not a lot of people know about, like, not know about it, but like understand it. And that kind of world is still, I don't want to say untapped, but it's still fairly kind of like foreign to a lot of people. So you can still get into it, and especially if you have some sort of online presence where you're looking to grow your traffic, you have to, like, you have no other option really. It's the way to go.
Yeah. So two things regarding that. So one of those is talking about like getting started today. You ever heard the expression, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today"?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
It's exactly
that's
like that.
perfect. Yeah,
Like the best time to, yeah, like the best time to get started with your online business was, of course, 20 years ago, and you could have been the next Amazon. But who knows where you can be 20 years from now if you get started today. And then I think the other thing, talking about SEO still being kind of foreign, is, yeah, dude, you're absolutely right. In fact, when I tell people like what I do for a living, I have to be like very careful how I say it. Like, well, I help people show up higher on the first page of Google. And people are like almost every time, it's like, that's a job. Like, are you kidding?
yeah.
Like people try and get on top of Google because just no one's ever thought about it. So yeah, I think, and in talking about like getting started, going back to that for a second, like I think even if you get started in something that's like, say we're both wrong and SEO's on the downtrend and online business in general's on the downtrend, which I think is a ridiculous idea, just for example's sake. Even if you do get started in online business and say providing content, like providing value to the world, that's what content is, then what you're doing is you are training yourself to solve a real world need. And so like someone who's an affiliate, for instance, the need they solve is they help people save time and make decisions. So I search best paddleboard for tall people. Like I know I want to buy one, I just don't know which one's right for me. So an affiliate says, hey, you don't have to open up 20 tabs on Amazon. Like just land on my page, I'll help you save time, make a decision. So like even if you're getting started in online business and you're doing it wrong, you're still learning. You're still getting started way ahead of everyone else, like way ahead of everyone else. And you're teaching yourself how to provide more and more value to people, which I think there's no reason to not get started in an online business. And I think providing, like, getting content on a site, providing value to someone.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like that, he just hit the nail on the head. Especially in today's world where everyone I feel like needs a bit of a, like, everyone's looking for like justification or advice when it comes to doing something, buying something, being something. You know what I mean? Like, we're all like, how many times out of the last 10 things you bought, did you, I mean, unless it was like a piece of gum or something, did you like look up a review on that thing, or you know, or like the 10, like the paddle boards for tall people, like that, like it's like, oh, okay, like I want to do this, I'm not sure what the best brands are, and then you look it up. So like I feel like we do that, and maybe I don't know, maybe I'm speaking for the entire population of the world here, but like I'm pretty sure we all do that, like, or at least most of us do. And so yeah, and so like when we live in that world, it's like, why not provide some sort of use to everyone, right? And even if it's 100 people, like even if your site's only getting 100 users a month, it's like, well, it's 100 more than zero.
Yeah, so getting off of starting an online, I think we've driven that one into the ground so far. So sorry, I'm unplugging my headset while I'm chatting, so you don't hear the buzzing. Yeah, so talking more about like the operations of Content Refined and what you're doing that's so stinking successful there. So you have a lot of orders that come in. Like, I don't know how much, but a lot of words, right? Like you produce a lot of words, which means that you have a lot of writers, editors, probably uploaders, stuff like that. So how have you been able to keep such a lean operation because like content is not a high margin business. Like you can't sell it for 100 and then produce it for 10.
Right.
Like it's not even close to that. So how have you been able to kind of keep those low margins away and make sure that like your business is still running efficiently?
Yeah. So obviously, like, I feel like whenever someone either leans out a business or begins running a business and tries to keep it lean, there's never one kind of factor or two factors. There's always like a bunch of little things. And so I think that's kind of what it's been. So, I mean, first of all, I'll give, a ton of credit to Maddie, who was she's on maternity leave now, but she is kind of the original business manager, co-founder of Content Refined. And I'm, taking over her role for a little bit, but she's done a phenomenal job of proceduralizing everything kind of to a T and making sure that process runs, as smoothly as possible from our end and from the client's end. So me just kind of jumping into that system has been, fairly smooth. And then I've just made a few tweaks here and there, nothing major, but to kind of lean it out a little bit more. Because, it's always nice whenever you can find little things like that to lean the business out. It's always great. So enormous props to her, especially if she ever hears this. Maddie, props. I said it. There you go.
So talking about Maddie real quick. So for anyone who doesn't know, Narcis and I are sort of we're on the same team with two different businesses, and our like sort of parent business. So Jon Gillham is like our parent business, sort of, and we have daily meetings. So Maddie went on maternity leave, like 6-7 months ago.
About like 7 months now.
6-7 months. Yeah, so I thought she had gotten fired. Like I didn't.
Did you actually?
I didn't realize how. I did. Yeah, and John and I just talked about this last week. So I literally thought she got fired because maternity leave in the United States is, I think it's like 6 to 12 weeks.
Oh,
so
right.
Maximum 3 months. Yeah. So she leaves in like late March maybe, and then we're in like May, June. I'm like, this girl's not coming back. And then July, August, September, November. And I was chatting with John about it last week, and I was like, hey, look, I know Narcis has been killing it with Content Refined. Like, how's Maddie feel about that? Like, have you chatted with her? Because I thought she'd been fired. So John caught me up to speed on the incredibly socialistic policies of Canada, how you actually pay mothers for having
Right, yeah. That's so funny that you thought, like, she had a baby, and we went, all right, see ya.
That's literally, I literally had no idea. I thought like she had a kid and then she decided not to come back.
I know, yeah. That's
I don't know.
So funny.
I have no idea.
Oh man, yeah, we're just savages here. Like,
It's just savages.
If you're reproducing, get off our team.
Oh man, that's exactly what I thought
That's
happened.
so funny. That's hilarious. I got to tell her that. That's
Oh,
funny.
that's awesome. So I know that content refine has been like another thing on your plate. We've touched this a little bit, but how have you been able to stay sane while working on different projects? Like I just have brand builders and site buddy, just
Yeah.
two, and I go crazy
Right. Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the key is I haven't been sane. This is me insane. Um, no, it's. I mean, it is difficult, right? Like working on multiple things. It's gonna sound so cliche, but like it's a lot of time management and self discipline. And I think if you don't do it properly, and I'm not the perfect example of it because I don't. There are days where I don't manage my time properly, um, but if you don't do it properly, then like you're not. It's not going to end up where it's like, oh, I missed something or blah blah blah, and then you have to catch up. But like something will break, right? Like if you don't keep up, something will break, and then you're going to end up having losing a client or losing traffic or losing business or whatever it is. And so it's a lot of like I found myself, and some days I still do, but like, you jump from one thing to another, to another, to another, and you jump from, in between 4 or 5 things within the span of a day, and then, nothing really gets done because you weren't efficiently working on each one. So it just comes back to like, you have to have chunks of your day almost allocated to like, okay, I'm going to work on this, and then I'm going to work on this, and then I'm going to work on this. And then, kind of sometimes separating larger chunks of your day. Like sometimes, I'll work on content refined stuff during the day or like a portion of the day, excuse me. And then later that night, I might spend a couple hours on other projects or like my own personal stuff as well. And set a time aside for that. And then it's also kind of like managing your time on the fly as well, because some days for content refined, we've obviously been having really good months, but sometimes a lot of our revenue comes in at the start of the month, and then there's like a week or like a little less than a week within the middle of the month where it's like, okay, it's kind of dead right now, not a lot of sales coming in. Makes sense. Like we had a big chunk come in at the start of the month, we'll have a big chunk come in at the end with like renewals and things like that. And then I'll have a week where it's like, okay, I'm not talking to a lot of clients here, not doing a lot of sales, not a lot of sales calls. Maybe I'll spend some time on either another project, or like, I'll spend some time on our marketing, or I'll spend some time on making sure our order delivery kind of procedure and pipeline is working more efficiently, or I'll spend some time on like digging a bit more into our team and how our procedures look like, and making sure that runs smoothly. So things like that. So it's like you do some time management on the fly by like, what situation, like, are you busy right now with A, B, or C? And then if you're not, work on D, E, and F, or whatever. So it's time management, but not, you can't think of it, you can't think ahead too much. You kind of have to do it, as you see fit, right? Like maybe, on a Tuesday night, you had plans to go out for dinner and then they get canceled, and you're like, okay, had other plans, but got canceled. So maybe I'll do some work on like my side hustle or whatever it is. And I think that goes for a lot of people. It's just like finding the time here and there, and then using that time efficiently. But then I think you also still have to have like a good work-life balance, because if you don't, and I've had periods of time like that where I just like 2 months goes by and I've just like not done anything for myself, not kind of like taking care of myself, like not taking some time off or spent time with my girlfriend, or like spent time with family. Then you think you can go, like you think you're a machine and you can just like push through it, but you get to a breaking point where you just like mentally shut down. And the worst part about that is sometimes that mental shutdown lasts for like a while, and then you're just like so bogged down and kind of out of it. So making, even when you're like working really well and efficiently, sometimes just taking an hour or two to like get away from it and take a mental break, even if you feel like you don't need it. I think that kind of helps with that. How do you manage multiple things at once?
That's my problem, man. As I try to be the
Yeah.
machine, so I try to solve all my problems within my say work hour problems with just brute force. But let me throw more hours down this thing's throat,
Yeah.
and I mean it's effective, but it's also like, well, it's effective at doing my job, but it's not effective at always keeping me mentally and physically healthy. because it's like, well, I'm going to sacrifice this time with my friends and then this time in the gym. And then all of a sudden I'm eating like all this junk food and I'm not happy. And then really what's probably happened is I'm probably less productive, even though I'm throwing more hours at it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah. And I completely understand what that feeling is like. Cause sometimes you feel you're just like, yeah, I can just like, I don't need a vacation, or like, I can go all day kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like you truly feel you're like, no, like I'm fine. But then like you always get, everyone has it. Everyone has like that kind of mental breaking point. And I think you gotta like, if you address it, you gotta address it early. And whether that's like some, sometimes people, sometimes it's not like a day-to-day thing. Sometimes it's like a yearly or monthly or quarterly thing, right? Like I know, and I kind of do this, and I think a lot of us, a lot of the people that we work with do this, but like, summertime can be a bit slower for a lot of businesses. And so like some people just spend July and August, like, working 30 hours a week and then enjoying the weather as much as they can, especially when, like up here in Canada, when we only have like 3 days of nice weather a year.
3 days of summer.
And so some people do that. And then, fall hits, and the kind of September to, mid-December period is like, all right, I'm just going to hit it as hard as I can. And then, come holiday season, like, and like shut it down for a bit, and then, hit it again for 2 months following the holiday season, then shut down a little bit. So it's like, it's not, sometimes it's not like a day-to-day thing. Sometimes it's like, I'm going to just like work my butt off for 3 months. And then like, I know there'll be a holiday or a summer or whatever, where I'm going to take that break and just completely like, recharge.
Nice. Well, cool, man. I'm about to run out of time, so let's get into some rapid fire questions. If you're ready. All right, sweet. What is one tool that you cannot live without?
Ahrefs.
It's so good.
I can't. I just tell it. I just recommend it to everyone. I love it. It's good. I don't care what people say. Critics, come at me. I'll back up Ahrefs. Also, Ahrefs sponsor me or something, because I love you guys.
Yeah, for real.
No,
I wish they had an affiliate program, because I'm recommending Ahrefs all the time.
It's so good. Like, and so like, I won't delve into it too much here, but like, people criticize it a little bit with, like, oh, how accurate is the keyword difficulty, volume, like all the kind of information and stuff. But it's like, it's accurate. I don't know. I've yet to see a data point where it's like, it's so inaccurate that it doesn't work. Because every time I use it, it provides good results, and not only for me, for my clients, for websites, whatever. So it's awesome.
Sweet. What's something that you're reading or consuming right now?
Yeah, so I just finished, and I'm just looking at my phone right now so I can pull it up here. I just finished Range by David Epstein. Really good book. Basically kind of talks about, the 10,000 hour rule of like, if you put in 10,000 hours worth of like practice into a skill, you'll be like an expert in it. Kind of like debunks that a little bit, or like criticizes it a bit by talking about how, the kind of idea that like an athlete, professional athlete, or CEO of a business or a highly successful person has spent like all their time from like, very young to where they are now, being, like focusing on a very, very specific niche or topic or skill. And then that's why they became who they are. And that's kind of the exception and not the rule, where in general, people who focus on like a ton of general stuff, like who have, I'm not an expert in one thing, but I'm like kind of good at 1,000 things. Those are the people that kind of have success in life. So a really cool book. I would recommend it.
It's on my reading list.
Oh yeah.
Like I've got it. I bought it. Yeah. Like I have it on my Kindle. I've just never gotten around to reading it. You should
read it.
So I'll make that my next one.
You'll love it.
Sweet, man. Awesome. And what's one way you've cut expenses this year?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's gonna sound like a cop out, but like going through our procedures and seeing where there's like very minor inefficiencies, and then seeing how we can kind of ramp that up or cut costs where we can. So just like look, like kind of just like going through P&Ls every month, every week. And I think that's where kind of like, doing weeklies with the people I work with my project managers, following it, like, seeing how writers are creating content, how our editors are doing it, what tools we're using, taking all that as a whole, and then seeing where we can just like cut little costs and then make it a bit more efficient. yeah, it's just like it's a bunch of little things, and it's I mean it's resulted, I think, in the, like you mentioned at the start of the podcast, at the start, or the last kind of 4 or 5 months, our margins have been really good. So it's nice to see when you put in a lot of effort like that. It's nice to kind of see the end result, because sometimes you you might be doing one thing and think it's leading to something, but then until you kind of see, look at your revenue and expenses and profit, unless it shows on there, then it doesn't, you're not really doing it. And so it's nice to have it show on there.
Yeah, awesome, man. And what do you think is a great business that doesn't exist today?
I don't know.
Never had any crazy business ideas? Something like, I think that would work.
Crazy business ideas. So I always had this weird idea. This was like years ago, and it obviously it doesn't apply now because we're all sitting at home trying not to get COVID. But I always had this cool idea where you would, and this was, so bear in mind this was in my university days, where it would be an app, and you could, so when you were younger in university, college, whatever, and you want to go to a bar, I don't know about you, but sometimes we'd like pick a bar to go to, and then we go there, and either the lineup would be way too big and it's like, an hour wait, and it's like, all right, well, now we got to go to another bar, and we end up walking around, try to figure out which one to go to, and then you never really ended up at the one that you want to go to. Or you get there and you're really excited and you go in and it's like, oh, it's dead, there's no one here tonight, and then you got to go somewhere else. So I always thought it would be a cool idea if you had an app that was like a live feed of what bars in your area are busy, and that live feed is produced by like the people who are there. So you could like go to like, oh, whatever, the Irish bar down the street, like downtown, let's see if it's busy or not, and then you could like go to their feed and it'd be people like, kind of like Snapchat. So they could be taking videos or being like, oh, lineup is 5 minutes, I waited in line for 15 minutes, lots of people here, no people here, and then you can kind of like through the app see see which ones are busy, and then you could like pick the one you wanted to go to. I don't know.
I'm surprised you had that problem, Narcissus. You weren't always just surrounded by the hottest girls around. You just walk right in.
No, you obviously never. I mean, you did not know me in university. I had really long hair, and it wasn't a great look.
Well, girls are into tall guys, so you got that nailed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. Yeah, we got that nailed, but yeah, I don't know.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. Thanks so much for hopping on. Really enjoyed it. Talk to you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
sounds good. Yeah, thanks for having me on.